Hello and welcome to another Affinity photo tutorial, and this time I'm doing this for a chap called Andrew Daniel in the Affinity photo group in Facebook, and he asked if anybody could make a video showing how to sort of reproduce this image. Now this looks like a screen grab from a television show because that looks like the History Channel logo down here, but basically he wanted something like this. Now I've done two or three different versions trying different things with different sort of backgrounds and different typefaces, and this last one here is the one I'm going to sort of try and get to, which is as close to that as I can get. Now for the background that I've used here, I've got from DZ, and it's a free download, 12 free abstract watercolor textures, and the one I'm using is that one there. And let me come to photo. This was my first attempt, which isn't too bad. Now I got the image of the cowboy by putting Cowboy into the search engine for Pixabay in the stock tab. Now I can find the image here, but I can't actually find this on Pixabay. Now why I wanted to do that is, one, so I could give you a link to where it is, but also when you sort of use the stock tab, you don't really have any control over what size and quality of image you get, whereas if you go to Pixabay you can choose various degrees of size and quality of image. So which is why I wanted to give you somewhere to get the image from. So I won't be using that one, but if you want that particular image you can find it in the Pixabay in the stock tab. The second image I tried was again with a Pixabay image, but this time with a paint splat rather than a watercolor paint sort of daub. And the last one, which is one I'm going to try and reproduce now, is again a Pixabay image, but this time I have got the link to this one so you can go for the better quality image if that's what you want. And like I said, the background comes from DZ, and the font is, I think it's called Firebox, and this was a free font with Publisher. If you come to the second page here on the menu, the welcome screen, you can claim free fonts, and Firebox is one of those free fonts that you can claim if you have Publisher. So let me just shut that down, I don't need that anymore, and I will shut down these images. So I've got the cowboy image and I have the paint image for the background, so all I need now is a new document. And I'm going to go for A4, although it says 4000 by 4000. I think there was something else I was trying. I'll leave it on 4000 by 4000. We'll see how we go. And I'll click on that. And then I'll come back to the cowboy image. Let me come back to the layers. Now I'm going to make a very rough selection of this cowboy. So I'm going to use a selection brush tool. And we go on add. Let me just increase the brush size a little bit, and I'm just going to quickly select this chap here. Now this is obviously got like an electronic gizmo here which probably detects the shots that he's doing. You could take your time and maybe clone those out, but I'm not going to bother, as this is just a very quick selection I'm making. Right, I think that is just about as good as I'm going to do for this. Like I said, it is a very, yes, I'm quite happy. I think I got most of that. I can just double check by coming to refine, and it will show me all the areas that have been selected, so I haven't missed anything in the middle here. And I will just, I'll wait for it to finish, just do a quick 0.5 feather just to sort of soften those edges a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to new layer and click apply. So that image is now on its own layer, and what I'm going to do now is I could use this image. I think this is what I probably did when I did the practice one. I just used the image there. In fact, I think that's probably what I will do again. I will just disregard this new one that I started. But if you wanted to start your own one, you could just right click, copy, and come back to your background that you may have started in the particular size that you may want and just paste it in. But I'm going to stick with the one that I've got here. We just move him over slightly, and I'm going to want a white background, so I'm going to click on this background that is currently hidden, because when we made the new selection it hid the background, and I'm going to add a layer, and then I'm going to flood fill that with white. You could also do it from the, I think it's a document layer. You can do a fill, or it might be the edit, or you can do a fill layer that way, but I personally prefer to use the flood fill. I find it quicker. So now we have a cowboy on the white background. We just need the red daub or whatever you're going to use. Now if you have a particular paint daub or whatever you want to use and you want to change the color, you could do that by adding a recolor layer and sort of picking a different red, but that red is quite good, so I will merge that in, and then I will right click and copy, come back to my cowboy image and make sure that it is the background layer that is highlighted. So this will paste above that, come to the move tool, and then I'm just going to rotate that round and come to a corner, hold down the control key and resize it, reposition it. So let's try it about there. Alright, so I'm fairly happy with where that is. And now it's just a case of doing the text. So I'll come to the artistic text tool, and I'm going to select the firebox, start typing F-I-R-E, firebox, and if I remember correctly I was using the 600 pixel in size, so I'll just click there and I'll do quick, and then I'll do another one down here, and then do draw. I'm doing them as two separate layers because one's going to be a different color and we're going to change the perspective of that. So let me just come back to the move tool. I'll move this one out of the way for the minute, roughly position this where I want it. I'm going to give it a slight slant, and to do that, if I put the cursor between the top of this, middle of this dot here and that dot at the top, you get the little double-sided arrow, and I'm just going to lean it over slightly to the left, and I'm going to change its color to white. Just another reposition so it looks better on that red background. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the grid on, and for that I'm going to go to View and Show Grid, and it shows this grid that's overlaying, and you can edit that, but I'm not going to do that at the moment. And I'm going to zoom in, because this is where I'm going to change the perspective of how this looks. And to do that, I'm going to come to the perspective tool. Now, I'm not 100% certain about all the facts in this, but I think when you change this using the perspective tool, you change it from being an editable layer and a vector into a raster layer which you can't edit anymore. So make sure your spellings are correct and all the spacings are correct how you want them. So come to the perspective tool, and I find that inner grid to be distracting, so I turn that off and just use the corners. So I'm going to reduce the size of this end of the word quick and come to about there, and then increase the size of this. Try and keep it in a straight line coming down. Let me just zoom out slightly, see how that looks. Yeah, I'm not unhappy with that, so I'll click apply and then come to the draw layer, and this time I'm going to go for a dark red colour, so it's darker than the red, blood red in the background. So we'll go for roughly about there, and again I'm going to move this up, so going by what Andrew wanted, the D is roughly under the C in that, so I'm going to put that about there. So again, come to the perspective tool. I don't know why I have trouble saying that. Just zoom in slightly, and let's put that about. I want it to be roughly the same size as the C. I could count the number of squares there, but I'm doing this by guesswork, being a bit lazy. And then come to this end and make this much bigger. In fact, I'll bring this down so that the tops of those letters are fairly even gapped. Let me just zoom out a bit so I can see that better. So you've got a fairly even gap there. Obviously I'm doing this quickly, you could take your time and get the size you want. And let's come down to about there and click apply, press Ctrl and 0 to zoom out, and then get rid of the grid. So and that is basically it. I know it's not 100% what Andrew was after, but hopefully that will give him the idea of how to reproduce that. He can find his own background red splurge, be it a paint daub like I'm using, or an ink blot like that one, and find a font that he likes and position it how he likes. But basically that is how I would do it, and you've still got the opportunity to alter this background and get a better covering so that word quick shows up better. So I'm happy with that. That hopefully answers Andrew's question. So thank you for watching and goodbye.